Welcome back, Nerd Squad. My name is Roy Destroya, and this is Top 10 Nerd. Coming up with constantly cool comic characters, definitely use that line because of how awesome alliteration is. It's a very tiring process, and sometimes the well of ideas runs dry. So maybe these characters are a little bit similar by coincidence, but it may also be likely that Marvel pulled a little inspiration from the incredibly successful DC. They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So let's take a look at the top 10 speculated times that Marvel stole from DC. In the number 10 spot, we kick off with Quicksilver and the Flash. Okay, so two guys who can run really fast. Not exactly a unique superpower that is an obvious copy, right? Besides, there are differences. One's as fast as lightning, and the other is, well, he's pretty quick. But the Flash is the original speedster, making his comic debut as Jay Garrick in 1940. Quicksilver lagged behind in the race, joining the comic book world in 1964 when Marvel realized they were missing out on the basics of superhuman speed. And not just running fast, but also the ability to think, speak, and vibrate extremely fast to pass through objects as well. But the important question is, who would win in a race? Coming in at number 9, we have Captain America and Guardian. Captain America may be one of the most recognizable faces of Marvel, but turns out he's not exactly their very own creation. While Cap may have technically been released first, as his debut was in 1941, him and DC's counterpart Guardian, who was debuted a year later, were based off of the exact same early sketches drawn by Jack Kirby and Joe Simon, who had both worked for the two comic book companies. The sketches included indestructible shields and blue suits. Neither hero has any real superpowers, but both are extremely skilled in hand-to-hand combat and are in peak physical condition, and they both suffer from helmet hat hair on many occasions. Next up at number 8 is Boomerang and Captain Boomerang. Yeah, if this one isn't a dead ringer, then I don't know what is. The similarities between Marvel's 1966 villain Boomerang and DC's 1960 villain Captain Boomerang don't just stop at their names. Both wield one of the poorest weapons, the boomerang, so obviously both have to come from Australia. They both have to display their obvious love for said poorest weapon, with Boomerang wearing one on his head and Captain Boomerang wearing his snazzy Boomerang shirt. In case we forgot what these two do, I think we can all agree, not enough Boomerang. In the number 7 spot, we have Black Cat and Catwoman. DC's Catwoman appeared in Batman #1 back in 1940 and was an immediate hit, so it's only natural that Marvel wanted to join in on the fun in 1979 and come up with their own sexy animal lady. Would she be based on a puppy? On a bird? Nope, she would be based on the exact same thing. Both ladies play the role of villain and hero whenever they feel like it, both ladies are cunning and crafty and always land on their feet, and both share the occasional kiss with their title heroes, Batman and Spider-Man. Am I the only one who kinda wants to throw them a ball of yarn and see who comes out on top? Coming in at number 6 is Ultron and Brainiac. When you run out of people to turn into villains, there are always humanoid machines to keep things interesting. Granted, DC's villain Brainiac has taken on many forms since his debut in 1958, so the similarities are a little harder to pin, but they are still there. Ultron, the Marvel villain who has debuted unnamed a solid 10 years later, borrows several characteristics that originally belonged to Brainiac, such as superior intelligence, the ability to self-repair, conscious transference, the fact that they never freaking die, and the fact that they were created to serve their masters but became too smart and hellbent on destroying the world. Hashtag just little computer things. Next up at number 5, we have Super Adaptoid and AMAZO. Adaptoid and then Super Adaptoid debuted from Marvel in Tales of Suspense number 82 in 1966. Meanwhile, DC's AMAZO had already been existing for 6 years. On the surface, these two don't share a lot of resemblance, but both are androids created with the ability to steal powers from many superheroes put together for the purpose of beating said heroes. Basically super weapons against the Justice League and the Avengers. Because when superheroes team up, they tend to get a little overpowered. So here's the Deus Ex Machina, except they both fail. Up next at the number 4 spot is the Hulk and Solomon Grundy. While Marvel's 1962 creation of the Incredible Hulk may play the part of a hero, DC's 1944 character of Solomon Grundy is consistently a villain, but the two do share similarities that make you think twice about Marvel's creativity levels. Grundy struggles with keeping his temper temper or else he loses himself in destructive fury. And apparently this heartbreaking moral struggle was quite appealing because it's exactly the same thing the Hulk struggles with. Plus, both are giant, muscly, oftentimes green masses that like to smash stuff. But again, who doesn't? In the number 3 spot we have Mr. Fantastic and Elongated Man. Granted, both names are a little silly, but at least Mr. Fantastic is a name and not a description. DC's Elongated Man came to fruition in 1960, while Marvel released the fantastic Mr. Fantastic a year later. Stan Lee claims his inspiration behind the super smart and super stretchy hero was actually Plastic Man from Quality Comics, but the coincidence between the two is too much to ignore. They both got their stretchy powers in different forms. Fantastic was exposed to cosmic rays while Elongated drank himself into an elastic band. But both ended up with a woman named Sue, of all the names. Coming in at number 2 is the Sentry and Superman. Superman, who debuted in 1938 and kind of put DC on the map, is arguably one of the most powerful and famed superheroes in comic book history. It only took Marvel 62 years before they would give it their own shot at a Superman knockoff in the form of the Sentry. Actually, Gladiator and Hyperion were attempts too, but just take a look at Sentry and you will see what I'm talking about. While Superman may be alien and Sentry of human descent, the two of them share their superhuman strength, flight style, tortured psyche, and Marvel even went as far as to put a big S on the Sentry suit. Real subtle. And finally, in the number 1 spot we have Deadpool and Deathstroke. I have yet to meet someone who doesn't love Deadpool, but if you love Deadpool, then technically you should be a big Deathstroke fan as well. DC's Deathstroke debuted in 1980, while Marvel's Deadpool only surfaced in 1991. Both characters started off as villains and then reformed. Both wear similar color schemes and wield similar weapons. Both mutinied into teams they were set to take down. And get this, their names are Slade Wilson and Wade Wilson. The copying is glaring. But unlike the others on this list, Deadpool creator Rob Liefeld actually admitted to ripping this one off Deathstroke, out of admiration of course. At least he admits it. So those were the top 10 times Marvel stole from DC. Let me know in the comment section down below who you think is the biggest ripoff. I know there are some pretty obvious ones out there. My name is Roya Destroya, thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another nerdy list.